Holla ballers, it's Preacher, and we're doing, finally, the heroic scenarios. Yes, we are. We are doing the heroic scenarios. I've been doing one or two of these today, okay? I've done a one or two, and so far I'm actually okay with the difficulty of these dungeons. They've not been bad. I've died a couple of times. Some of them have been face roll. Some of them have been absolutely face roll. So we're going to talk about that today while we get on with this dungeon. I'm doing this live commentary. I haven't done this one on heroic yet. So we'll see how that goes. Now, as you can see, you get punished. As you can see, our mage friend here is obviously nearly dead. I'm not sure what killed him. I would assume it's this. It looks, yeah. It looks like... I don't think this is going to go well at all, actually. Which is kind of good to see. We kind of want to see this. It's not supposed to be easy, is what we've been told. And, of course, this is going to be very dependent on the group you're in. Now, what I will point out straight away, so I kind of want to move from that, I'm pretty sure, is that everything so far in these scenarios has been completely CCable. In fact, I'm going to go ahead straight away. I'm going to put my VE. I think that would be a good idea. This looks... Does this heal people? I don't know. Maybe. I'm going to keep my repair going. Good. And we've lost two people already. Okay, so there you can go. Heroic scenarios, everybody. That's their kind of the feel. They're not the easiest thing in the world. But everything is CCable. There's lots of choice here in how you deal with your heroic scenarios. You don't have to be Mr. Guns Blazing. I kind of want to check if that is a heal. Is that a heal or not? Now, I can assume I can fear these as well. Yes, I can. Now, I don't want to be a little bit trolly with this. If I solo it, is that giving the bad impression? Maybe. Maybe. That's something I want to bear in mind. I don't want to solo it, and, of course, you guys say, oh, it's troll face. But I am going to try. Why the hell wouldn't I? I need to check what this is. What is this doing? Restoring 10% health and 2%... Oh, okay. So it's kind of got a little bit trivial instantly. Yeah, there is lots going on in the heroic scenarios. Like I say, now, the big thing about the heroic scenarios for me so far is... Okay, stage 2. So I actually soloed that part of the encounter, which is pretty sad. I don't intend to solo the encounter by any means. Is what is your group made up of? This is kind of a big deal. Is what exactly is going on with your party? As this guy just DC'd, you know, he's quit out of the game. 40 seconds, of course. Is what is your party made of? Now, I've had some combinations of players which have both made things really easy and made things really hard. Surprisingly enough, or maybe not surprisingly to some of you, is tanks actually seem to make the dungeon worse. Because they are actually designed... Now, this is my only logic on this, is they are designed to be done potentially by 3 DPS. And as such, things don't hit incredibly hard, making Vengeance sort of non-existent and their DPS really bad. On top of that, everything can be CC'd. As you can see there, I can fear things. As a Shadow Priest, I've got Void Tendrils, which on top of everything else kind of makes life a little bit easier, because I can essentially CC huge groups of packs. Now, as a Shadow Priest, that's okay, I guess. But a tank actually caused us a lot of problems in one of our other dungeons, because a tank was running around being heroically gathering everything, and you might think, oh, well, now I can just AoE everything down, and it wasn't really a case of that at all. It really wasn't a case of that. In fact, it just turned into a case of him dying repeatedly, because these things kind of hurt when stacked up, because you're supposed to be dividing them up between who's playing and who's not playing, and the DPSs who are doing their job. As such, it can kind of become a little bit difficult. Now, what I will say is any player who is not the best at dealing with things around him causes you, again, more problems. It causes you, again, a lot more problems. As you saw previously, I assume this is a boss of some kind, so let's have a look, see what's happening here. I'm actually going to be a complete jerk and fade. I hope you don't mind that, Mr. Friend. Yeah, he's got 10 million HP. You can see he does things like Vile Tongue Lash, and that's going to take a lot of your health. And that's what you're looking for. These scenarios are all about one easy thing to remember is, hey, yeah, that guy's dead now, okay? And that's just the way this has gone, because he's not looking at what this fight actually does. So you can see his melee is actually very weak. but he does have, of course, tornadoes which blow you off, which is wonderful. It's all about looking about what the actual mechanics of the fight are. What are the mechanics? How does this fight work? Now, of course, I've never been into this dungeon before. Therefore, I did not know that guy also fired whirlwinds. Now I know. Guess what I'm not going to do is I'm not going to put that guy. Let's see if I can... No, I can't help you, unfortunately. And now we appear to have a lot of mobs. So, it might be time to start doing some CC. So I'm going to gather these up. I'm going to give them void tendrils there. Now you can see that thing on the floor. I want to avoid that, obviously. While keeping as many of these dotted and CC as possible. And this is what generally the heroic scenarios are around. Now, as I said, tanks tend to make the dungeon harder, which some of you will find surprising. I'm going to pop my VE. I'm actually going to rebuff Fortitude at the same time. You might find that surprising, but on the opposite end of that, healers make things significantly easy, to the point that it's almost trivially annoying. That rogue is beyond help, I would assume. And I'm going to trap everything to the floor again, avoid the fire and the Vile Tongue Rush. Hopefully I'm not going to die here. See if I can give myself a little speed boost. Yeah, good shit. I do have aggro at everything. Don't mind if I drop a little fade, my friend, because I'm just going to hop around here and give myself a little flash heal here. Oh, my flash heal of shadow is, of course, garbage now. Well remembered. I assume we just need to kill this guy. Perhaps these things will just despawn. Yeah, healers make the whole heroic scenario entirely too easy, to the point where it was ridiculous. We did a heroic scenario earlier, one of the new ones. These are not going to despawn. Yes. No. Most of them. Okay. Let's give them a fear. I think they are actually trying to despawn from the look of this. They're actually desperately trying to despawn, but whatever. We're okay with that. Yeah. The addition of a healer actually trivialized most of the encounters that I faced, almost ridiculously so, and really ruined it almost for what this scenario is supposed to be. It was an interesting contrast to have a healer in there, especially as most healers have some form of DPS now, and that really switched up how the game played out and how the scenario went. With this, just the normal addition of a healer really changed it up completely, to the point where, you know, it kind of felt like we weren't doing much of anything and you could charge through it incredibly fast with a healer. As a contrary to a tank, we had a tank who was just constantly dying all the time. But overall, the difficulty is designed specifically for 3 DPS. That is the entire designation of this dungeon. It is purely for 3 DPS and nothing much else. It's not really designed with healers and tanks in mind, and that kind of aspect of it is pretty obvious, I've got to say. It's pretty damn obvious that they are not designed in any way to have this kind of dynamic, and I'm not sure why these things are just... Was that a heal? Maybe. I kind of made your frames in a weird place. It's okay. It kind of presents this whole bizarre contradiction, is that the guys are, if you are playing a healer and so on and so forth, is that you're going to trivialize these dungeons. And perhaps for me, it's even a case, considering the queue times are completely irrelevant, depending on your role in the game, to go ahead and actually play as probably Discipline or Holy, in fact, which is kind of contradictory to what the scenario is about, because they're just so much easier with a healer. Not that they're difficult, as you can see, but there is some challenge. The whole idea is to make sure you use your talents and such. So you can see I've used Voice Tendrils almost on cooldown. I've also used VE, I've used Void Shift, I've done some live swapping and some other ones which was absolutely necessary. That is almost invisible to see, which is good to see. Almost killed me. I do like invisible death mechanics, they are the best. Yeah, there's another one. I guess I will just watch for when you decide to send something at me. Now, I'm not really focusing on my DPS, as you can see here, and things are still fine. In fact, I'm going to pop a VE, help myself out. I assume the throwing... Oh, that instantly killed me, which was great. 119,000. There's a lot of things like that that kill you, which is okay. I mean, it's kind of like to play defensively, but you can see it's not a lot of damage that kills you. It's like 119k or something along those lines. This is kind of like a mini-boss. It's something that a healer can completely trivialize without much problem whatsoever. A healer with, you know, someone's taking this kind of damage, it isn't no big deal, these 40Ks. They can actually just completely nullify everything that goes on. Which is, I don't know, I kind of like it and kind of don't like it. Some people won't like that aspect of it. They won't like the fact that if they go in with a group of 3 DPS, they're like, ugh, can someone switch to healer? I can imagine that's kind of going to happen on occasion, is that people will come into the dungeon and hope that you will not play your DPS and in fact play a healer, which isn't what we're really about. So let's be honest, we're not really about that. We're actually hoping. Can I get this back? I think I'm in combat actually, so I can't. Yeah, I can't. I'm in combat. Okay, never mind. So far, the difficulty as being a 3 DPS team like we are now seems fine. In fact, these are completely random DPSs. Completely random DPSs. Remember, these are the heroics, not the normals. They seem completely fine. I've had actually no complaints whatsoever, personally, about the actual difficulty of these dungeons. I really don't. They're necessarily difficult for what they reward, which is LFR quality gear. And you might pick up a few repairs. Use the blue boomer. Where's my boomer? Now, one of the problems you're going to have is like a problem I'm actually facing right now, is I have absolutely no idea what a boomer is and how it works in relation to this scenario. And that's because scenarios for me have been extremely dull content. There's no doubt about that whatsoever. They've been very, very, very dull content. And therefore I have never bothered to learn what goes on. But if essentially your main role in all these scenarios as of now is one, to look out for anything that heals you. They're obviously extremely helpful. Try not to be the best DPS. Ah, okay, I have this now. Awesome. What does this do? Can I click on him? No. Can I click on this guy? Nothing that seems to happen. I assume I... Oh, there we go. What does this do? A bomb? A bomb strike will kill it instantly. Okay, well, let's see if I can... Oh, I couldn't save that guy. I'm trying to read these things. Again, Void Tendrils, CC, absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. All the time. No doubt about it. I know I can kill these things instantly now. I'm not entirely sure how I do that, and I'm kind of worried that I'm actually just going to die here. I'm going to drop a fade, but I think that's going to kill my rogue friend. But, you know, YOLO swag. Whatever. No, it's just going to kill me. Let me dispersion in here. Oh, this is going to kill me easily. Yeah, there's a mechanic here that I'm not sure about, which is about throwing bombs. I'm not sure entirely on that. But that's okay. Again, it's the difficulty that's there. I have to learn the fight, which is actually something that's very much missing from your average 5-man. One of the big problems we have in the 5-man content, which I freely admit, is that people don't need to learn the fights at all. There's enough people in 5-man content, in 5-man normals, 5-man heroics, whatever it might be, to completely nullify any and all mechanics. If 2 or 3 people know what's going on, they can absolutely 100%. Okay, this stuns a Starrock minimum for 10 seconds. Starrock affected by a boomer brew strike are killed instantly. Use teamwork. Well, that's a fail, isn't it? That is absolutely not going to happen. Absolutely not going to happen in the least, as I assume not many people here know about what a boomer strike is. I don't, for one. I'm not going to lie, I have no idea what that is either. But we'll go one at a time, I guess, before we... Let's see, what's the range of this thing? Boomer strike. Okay. So we're looking for a boomer strike. Boomer strike. What causes a boomer strike? I have no idea. Let's see if anyone knows. Use a boom. Now, hang on. Is this called? Oh, we just both do. Oh, okay. This is actually trivially easy. Me and the Warlock have got this shit together now. We'll kill everything. No big deal. Okay, so once you learn it, look at the significant easiness that goes on here. It's pretty obvious this is what's supposed to happen. Now, I assume that if you channel it at the same time, it doesn't work. Good. Switch over. And there's all the ads dead. So that is a perfect example of how these heroic scenarios work. If I probably paid more attention to the normal scenarios, I'm sure I wouldn't have had any difficulty with that whatsoever. But there you go. That's just the way the world is. Scenarios are so trivial in the past that I didn't bother at all. I have no issue with that at all. There we go. So the next thing I wanted to talk about was the bonus objectives. The bonus objectives are interesting. They really are quite interesting. The bonus objectives, seemingly so far, are entirely based on how quickly you can complete the dungeon. Now, some of you might turn your nose up at that idea, is that it's purely based on how quickly you're going to do the dungeon. Nothing else really seems a factor so far in the 3 or 4 heroic scenarios I've done. Anything else was merely just an afterthought, a complete afterthought. It was like, oh, you can complete this dungeon super fast, you will get extra rewards for doing so. Okay, that kind of promotes a little bit of reckless play. I'm not always a big fan of that. Oh, okay, so now we're going to get extra ads. So hopefully someone will see what I'm doing here. Ah, good. Can you see this, Mr. Warlock? Good. Is there another one behind us? Let's kill this guy off if anybody notices it. Good. Warlock's on my case. He's on my 6. Good man! And we're back to killing the boss. And I'm very much okay. This is actually quite cool. I'm no problem with this at all. So, it kind of assuages my initial fears that this was going to be trivial, super shit, trivial content. It's not, by any means. But once you learn it, it very quickly could be. But you are rewarded for doing it faster and faster. So, in one respect, although it promotes reckless play, because of course we all remember the culling of Stratholme getting the golden dragon, the golden drake, as much as it absolutely looked deplorably bad. Every group you went in within after a couple of weeks was determined, of course, to complete this. Although generally they never did. Okay, so let me break it and re-attack it. Yeah, that one. Is there another one? Some dots in this guy. Oh, you spawned it on me this time. That's great news. This boss is actually retardedly easy once you know how to use this button, by the way. This is starting to get a little disappointing because obviously I've been, at least this Warlock and in fact the Rogue, have both worked out exactly how you deal with the Sauroch, and other than that the boss does nothing whatsoever. And we're not taking any damage at all, which is kind of sad. That's hitting for nothing. This whole fight is generally about, can you click the things together? There's your big challenge. Anything else is fine, not great. One down, wait till you click it, I'll click the next one. And someone click this one. Thank you. And that's it. That's pretty much the whole challenge here. But you do get, like I said, the bonus objectives are nice. They give some sort of reward for experienced players. I just worry about non-experienced players desperately trying to rush through content because they may have joined a group that had 2 awesome players in it, and then they start wiping. Because it's very easy to die, as we've proved already. It's actually very easy to die. It's compared to 5-mans especially. I would say easily these are actually significantly more difficult than a normal 5-man heroic. They really are, because, but that again is divided up by the dynamic of what your group is. If we had a healer in this dungeon, it in fact would be completely trivial and almost indifferent to normal modes. I mean, completely indifferent. You wouldn't really be able to tell the difference whatsoever if there was a healer in this group. You would just heal through it. The damage is not enough. That healer cannot cope with it, and therefore it's no big deal. A tank actually makes the group significantly harder, in my opinion. There's not a lot of damage going on there. So as you can see with this fight in particular, where we're using the boomers to kill everything, and in fact the destroyer doesn't really do anything. If anything, the tank would be taunting this and taking unnecessary damage to try and get some vengeance, so in fact make himself useful. Whereas it's actually better to let the NPCs deal with it and you just DPS him down. So in terms of how difficult these heroic scenarios are, healer and 2 DPS is by far the easiest. 3 DPS is fine, and that is exactly what these things are tuned for. They are designed that way, with that in mind, and that's okay. I don't have much of a problem with that. If I was to run these on a regular basis and I knew all the mechanics, I would be significantly more bored than a 5-man. I think that's something really important. They're just not involved enough, especially the last 2 scenarios I've done. I forget the other one that I did today. I've done a couple of the Crypt of the Forgotten Kings, which is terrifically bad. Terrifically bad. And also involves various debuffs which give you increased damage. And again, the bonus objective there is to finish the dungeon in a certain amount of time. There is a debuff or buff, whichever you want to call it, that gives you increased damage and also increases the damage you take. That buff is completely trivial when you have a healer in the group, and so therefore you just storm through it with a 200% or 300% damage buff or whatever it might be, and you kill everything pretty much instantly. You keep the buff to full stacks all the time, and by the end of the dungeon you're done in 5 minutes. That is boring, trivial, boring content. It's almost like having the stacks of determination from LFR. With 3 DPS, that might be a different take on it, and therefore the scenarios have a little bit of rotation and maybe some replayability that only is affected by how difficult it is, and that can be completely random if that's what you're going to do. Overall, I'm still on the fence. I'm still a little bit on the fence. Some of them are fun. The challenge is there. The challenge is there, but it's definitely decided on what players join your group. Of course, player skill is involved. Players who can see me channeling lightning constantly to other mobs and not clever enough to see the button and then say, oh, maybe I can press this. Then that entire section would probably be a wipe fest, but as such, people can notice those kind of things. So far, okay. Is this the best replacement to 5-man content? Maybe. The queues are instantaneous. That is the big thing. The queues are instantaneous. There is a challenge in them. There is definitely a challenge involved in them, and they do not require rolls. The purpose of heroic scenarios completely makes sense. I just hope that the difficulty is not completely trivialized too quickly, as 5-mans became trivially easy very, very, very quickly, and therefore that would be a huge problem for me. Okay, guys, that's me. That's the heroic scenario. So it was interesting too. Some deaths, which is good to see. Good to see some deaths. I always like to see that it's not a complete stroll in the park if you play things certainly incorrectly. I'm sure some of you would have gone, ooh, you should have pressed this, should have pressed that. Whatever. Other than that, have a great day, guys. Bye.